There is a member of our Onewheel community that has built something incredible. I want to show it to you today. It's in Columbia, Tennessee. And it's called Float Valley. This is Aaron Bigger, the man who made this trail from hand by himself. And he's here to tell us how he did it, why he did it, and how you can do this in your area too.
Woo! That was interesting.
Oh no, move! This is Float Valley in Columbia, Tennessee, just south of Nashville. Let's go check it out.
That's easy. All right, so I got a Onewheel after years of watching videos and stuff like that, and finally just like, okay, I'm going to do this. Last year in May, right around 1st of May. So I got the Onewheel and I got a pint and I took it to the local mountain bike trail, and it was so rough with rocks and roots and stuff that's really fun to ride on a mountain bike. But for an inexperienced one-wheeler like I was, it was not fun. But there was a couple smooth pieces of trail in there that I kind of was like, okay, wait a minute now. If this was smoother and flowy and whatnot, this could be really good and a lot of fun. So that kind of sparked me thinking, well, where could I build a trail? Because I come from a mountain bike background and I used to build mountain bike trails, still do. So I have that background going for me. So I knew what it would take. I just needed somewhere to do it because I live in a neighborhood with a little postage stamp sized lawn. I mean, just no yard. You ain't not doing it here. And so anyway, I look across the street and I've lived here for 20 years and there's a small 2-acre piece of wood across from me. And I thought that would actually be perfect to build a trail in. And so I needed to know who the property owner was. So I just got online and spent just a short amount of time online looking to see who owns that piece of property. And I found out luckily that the city owned it that I live in. And so I contacted the city and told them, I said, okay, it's gonna sound crazy, but what would you think about me building a trail in that property? And they're like, I don't know, like, what are you thinking? And honestly, I've got a 9-year-old son that he and I got into riding Onewheel together. So I just wanted somewhere for us to go, have somewhere to ride close by. And if it turned into something where other people could come to, that's cool too. But after contacting the city and told them I want to build a Onewheel park, and they were like, what's a Onewheel? So I showed them what that was. And they actually thought that was pretty cool. They didn't freak out like, oh my goodness, this is just death waiting to happen. That's where it started. So that's where I got my tools ready and said, and the big sales point too, if you can call it that, is I told them like, I want to build a trail. It's not going to cost you any money. It's my labor, my time, my whatever. Get up early before work and go in and work on it for a couple hours. After work on it for a couple hours. And eventually we'll have a trail. And they're like, all right, see what you can do. Well, fortunately, I guess the advantage I had is I had worked with the city on another park they built last year for mountain bikes. And being the trail builder, just total volunteer, nothing professional. They knew that I had, built trails before, and so that was kind of my way in. They knew I wasn't just going to hack something in. What are they going to worry about, right? If you go on city property, they're going to worry about what's it going to cost them and liability. And so it wasn't going to cost them anything because I'm just somebody they knew that would go in and build trails. And I gave them so many outs too. I didn't want them to, I knew if they had to commit to something, they may not. So I was like, let me just go in there, start building, and you can come along and see what I'm doing, and we'll go from there. So for like 3 months, I went in and was building a couple hours from sunup to sundown. The summer, we got so much daylight, so I could get off work and go and have several hours to build. And then so after like 3 months, they came out there and saw what I was doing, and then they were kind of getting it, right? They were like, okay, this guy's for real. But yeah, so you're looking at about a year's time, and I've got 1,200 hours of volunteer hours in building it. So yeah. So I had to figure it out, right? Like I'm a new rider to Onewheels, and so building trails for Onewheels is different than mountain bikes. coming from a mountain bike background, I knew what angles and different things for berms and jumps and stuff, what that worked. So when I would build that for the one wheel, it didn't work as well. It doesn't need as much angles, and the drops aren't as big to be as exciting. As far as tools, because I was financing the whole thing, so to speak, with my labor, and I wouldn't want to go rent a bunch of equipment, I did all by hand. So eventually they gave me a backhoe for about 6 hours. They had rented one because they had a water line break at one of their facilities across town. And then fortunately, I was well into building that trail, and the parks guy called me up and said, "Hey, we got this backhoe for a few hours. You need it before we return it to the rental company?" And I said, "Heck yeah, bring it out." So I built some of the bigger berms with it. But the rest of it was all built by hand. Absolutely, yeah. And I got lucky. Like once I figured out that 28 degrees was about the max banking that you wanted for a berm, for various speeds. You could go too much or too little. That 28 degrees is your maximum. And then depending on the speed I was going to have in the planned corner, I would adjust what I thought it should be down from there. So if it's going to be a lower speed corner, then I would do less angle than that. And then as far as ups and downs, I mocked up a little test hump, and then saw how fast I could go over it before the nose would hit or the tail drag, and then adjusted from there. So everything is very speed sensitive, and that's where it all started. So I came up with basic numbers and basic measurements for like radiuses of berms and things like that would work well, and then built it all off that, and then it's worked out really, really well. I put a little of my own money in it at first, which was a few $100s. And then the city came behind it and backed it, and they've got about 10 grand in it. So total project cost is about 10 grand. There was never any intent for the city to invest money. I didn't know if they'd want to or had the money. But once they saw the potential, and they started with, I think, $1,500 worth of lumber, and then I built the first feature. You can build a really nice feature for about, last year you could build one for $1,000, right? This year you're looking at about 2 grand to build a really big, nice feature that when you drive past it, it draws your attention. Say, yeah, there's something there. And we have like 9 bridges and features that are sizable, and not all of them were $1,000, right? So riding, like we all know, riding a one wheel is very much like surfing or snowboarding, and we try to recreate that to the best of our ability with this park. So it's a 2-acre park on the side of a hill. So I wanted to use the hill. We went back and forth on most of it. So you have some downhill slope, but nothing too crazy a beginner can't handle, but enough speed where you can totally hit pushback and pass on it. The features, I wanted to simulate wave riding and things like that. And so, yeah, we came up with like all surf names. So like tsunami, tidal wave, cyclone, things like that, either storms or waves or something. That was kind of our theme for naming things. And my favorite one is probably tidal wave, because it's an 80-foot radius berm, but it also goes not only in a radius, it's elevated. So it starts at ground level, then goes up in the air. Then it also undulates up and down, like you have pump bumps in it. And so yeah, it's created some challenges to not stuff the front of the board when you're going around it with having bumps in it. And I had to tweak that a little bit, but once you get used to it, it's so fun. But yeah, tidal wave, that's our biggest feature there, and that's probably my favorite. Find out who the Parks and Rec, either the director or manager is for the city you live in. Once you find out who that is, try to get a face-to-face meeting. So email them and say, hey, I'd like to meet you and talk to you about an idea. But the other thing is, find out where they know where their property is, but you can spend some time on the internet looking for city property, whatever city you live in, And my kind of inside tip would be find out where their fire halls are. So what cities do is they buy fire hall, or they're going to build a fire hall, right? And so like our city, I think has 5 fire halls in the city. And so they buy a lot of property, anywhere from a couple of acres to 15, 20 acres. They figure out what part of the property they want to build the fire hall on and do it. And then they give the rest of the property back to the city. And usually it just sits there as just city property unused. And that's perfect. We've done 2 parks in my city. One is a mountain bike park, and then one is this Onewheel park, that both of them are at fire station property that was left over from the construction of it. So it's just sitting there. But yeah, find out where the city property is, find out what would work for a trail, and then go ask them for permission to do it. But yeah, if there's no money initially that they've got to invest, I mean, what harm is it, right? That you go do your thing and then show them. And if they're not into it, you may lose a little bit of time, but you also could gain something like we did, which is pretty awesome. We haven't had any races. I've talked with the city about doing that, and they're all about doing events and whatnot, whether it be races or group rides or whatever. We've had some informal group rides just from people around the area, and didn't know how many people that acreage could handle, be it parking or amount of riders on the trail. We had 35 riders at one time, and that was easy. That wasn't crazy or anything at all with having too many people. We want to do that. I just don't know. I'm a builder. I'm not like an event organizer. So other than just posting up on Facebook and saying, hey, let's get together and ride, if that's somebody else's deal that wants to come and host an event, or we host and they run it, we'd be all about that, and it would be so fun. And I mean, the goal for this trail was basically a race trail. So it's a serpentine loop that you can race on. And that was the other thing, the appeal for this trail was not only was it a manicured trail specifically designed for Onewheels, but also that we could do a lot of testing for board setup, tires and stuff like that. And it's repeatable. So you could really find out the changes you're doing to your board, what's really making a difference, and what's all just in your head. Well, I mean, it's awesome, right? I mean, who wouldn't want a manicured trail that's designed specifically for Onewheel? I don't know of any other in the country. I know a couple of the festivals that are doing their own trails for the festivals, but still nothing like what we're doing. So yeah, love for people to come out and check it out. It's free. It's open to the public. As long as it's not muddy, you're free to come and go. It's in Columbia, Tennessee. I'm sure you'll probably have an address listed with the video or whatever. But yeah, come on out, check it out, and enjoy it. Yeah. My name is Aaron Bigger, and I live here in Columbia. And you can find me on Instagram at Aaron_Bigger74, because I'm an oldie. I'm 47 years old, so go figure. But yeah, you can find me there. I'm on Facebook too. I don't do a whole lot there, but you can message me. I'll see it and get with you if you got any questions. But yeah, that's kind of the story and how we made it all work.